Yeah, my calling actually is divided into two spheres. One, I was always deeply interested in religion, interestingly. Deeply interested in religion, deeply interested in history, but also deeply interested in just how things work. And so for me, I remember very early on, just a short story, I attended multiple kind of religious faith traditions as a child, one of which was Catholicism. And I remember I was intrigued by the mystery that was there in the worship service. And I'm old enough, which is kind of embarrassing, but I'm old enough where I actually remember the Latin Mass and just the mystery and the ornateness of that kind of celebration. So that was one thing. But then literally at the same time, I'm interested in trying to figure out how things work. And another short story, I always thought as a child that there was room for improvement of things. And so I remember my mother would toil over trying to get all of the grime and grease off of the walls. And I said, hey, I have an idea. We can improve that solution. So I started mixing things together. I had no clue what I was doing. But I just said, I can mix this because I read about it. It had certain kind of compound or properties. And I can mix other things together, put them all together. I'm surprised I didn't blow myself up, but I cleaned those walls. Now, I got the grime and grease off, but unfortunately I also took the paint off. So I got in trouble. But the point is that I was just deeply interested in those two areas simultaneously and always felt that there was a presence there, a spiritual presence, kind of a divinity presence, that was in essence a part of both, that one was not complete without the other. And that then defines, I didn't know it at the time and I could not have articulated it, as a child, but it really does define how I came to be where I am now. And that is a scientist who very, very strongly believes in a Father, God, Creator.
I knew I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was a little girl. So my parents are both educators. My dad was a college professor. My mom was a school teacher and later principal and superintendent. And I taught anybody and anything I could. So lined the stuffed animals up, brought in the neighborhood kids. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. Well, later in life in college, I realized that teaching, I don't know about that. It's not gonna earn me a lot of money. It certainly doesn't sound prestigious. I don't know if I want to do that. Well, I went to undergrad and quickly realized that teaching was indeed my calling. And I went to an institution that valued teaching, that valued high quality student and teacher relationships, where your faculty, small faculty ratio. And I really came into my calling at that time and realized it didn't matter what the title of my profession was, that if I was doing what I felt called to do, then it was going to be fulfilling for my life and for the work that I was supposed to do.
In any college worth its bricks will confront a student with things they've never heard of before, never been exposed to. It's their first time to imagine these things, and if that goes well, it can light passion students didn't even know they had, and that's pretty much what happened for me. I had gone to a technical school to train to be a pilot. At the end of that program, they literally in the exit interview stages, they mentioned, you're going to have a 4-year degree to get very far with this. And I was so bummed out. I thought, I have to go back for more school. I can't believe it. But they said in that moment that it really didn't matter what the degree was in, you just need a degree. And so I applied myself to what I was interested in at the time, which was the Bible. And I undertook to study Bible languages, and the Bible folks said, hanging out after class, they said, you're asking philosophy questions. You need to study philosophy. And I had never heard the word used in a positive context before. And they literally walked me across campus and introduced me to the philosophy faculty, which was 2 people in a room about this size with their desks kind of facing each other. And before that conversation was over, I thought, they're exactly right. I need to study philosophy. When
I got this telephone call asking would I be interested in being in a leadership role here at Baylor as chair of biology? I had known about Baylor. I knew it was a Christian institution, so that's a positive. But it was in Texas, and I was in California, and it was in a place that I did not know. I did not know where Waco was. Matter of fact, if you had asked me at that point when the individual was talking to me, where is Waco, Texas? I probably would have said, pointed to somewhere around Lubbock. Isn't it in West Texas somewhere? And Texas being such a vast state. But as I got to know what Baylor was all about, I became really infatuated with it and trying to understand it, and really infatuated with this idea that one can be a top research institution and yet be motivated and driven by a Christian mission.
I had the opportunity to apply for a number of different jobs, and I will tell you, when I came to Baylor, I knew from about the second hour on campus that this was the place for me. And I talked to a number of colleagues around the university who there's no word to necessarily describe it other than you just know that there's something distinctive here. The interactions I had with the faculty that were on the interviewing committee, with the faculty in the department, with the leadership, it was very different. And I had been to a number of places. But when I walked away from Baylor after those 2 days, I thought, this is where I want to land. Lord, please let them send me a job offer. Let me land there so that I can do the work that I was called to do.
I came to Baylor from Yale precisely because of Baylor's mission. There are hundreds of research universities ranked in their various classifications, but only a handful in the whole range that has any significant religious mission and any significant tie to religious denomination. And that made Baylor immediately very, very special in my view. The fact that the Christian character of the university was still expressed in its mission statement meant a lot to me. I saw it as a place where Christians could come and do some thinking and be part of a community of scholars devoted to thinking about everything in light of their faith, in light of their shared convictions.
Well, I think we've heard this mantra, but I think it's true. The world needs a Baylor, right? The world needs a preeminent Christian research institution. We need novel solutions to the world's most wicked or deepest problems. And I think we have an opportunity at Baylor to speak into those problems. So I think we are poised to do that well, because I think we have a sense of deep-rooted purpose and vocation that informs our work. So it's not simply we're checking off boxes to get tenure or to get that grant or do the research, but ultimately we're driven by some greater calling that I think gives meaning to the work and creates opportunities for greater commitment to that work.
I think the opportunities are really limitless. In biology, we have, in essence, two camps. We have our kind of ecological, environmental, evolutionary biology camp, and then we have our cellular, molecular kind of health and disease camp. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create opportunities within each of those divisions within biology. And this occurs actually across the life sciences at Baylor, where they integrate and that they not only talk to each other, but try to solve common problems. Our motto in biology is understanding our world and then healing our world. And so that motto is, I think, pivotal. It's something that I hope animates all of our scientists in biology. And in animating them, is something that's unique because you won't see that anywhere else.
You know, there are so many pressures on a Research One university and on Research One scholars as we're aspiring to that benchmark. You know, there are the standards of one's discipline, the demands on you as a teacher and a mentor, and, you know, demands here about Baylor to grow and aspire and achieve new benchmarks of excellence. you know, it's an institution, and we are faculty with tons of different competing pressures on us. And so for me, one of the challenges for Baylor is not to lose sight of the message that's on the north wall of Pat Neff Hall, which hit me like a ton of bricks whenever I saw it by accident, basically having lunch with students out in the little formerly called Fountain Wall. I don't know what it's called nowadays, but having lunch in the Fountain Mall area and seeing the words of Proverbs 3 echoed there for everyone to see, literally the writing on the wall, which is, you know, wisdom is more precious than rubies.
So as we walk towards becoming a research institution, we can't forget our first love. So we know this from Revelation, right? We are calling out the churches for forgetting their first love. And our first love I see as a commitment to transformational education. This is the reason the institution was formed, is to educate women and men for worldwide service and leadership with a Christian perspective. And I don't want us to forget that at the expense of getting the grants and writing the research proposals and publishing. We can't forget that ultimately our goal here is to transform lives.
What I would say to new faculty is that the challenges are not overwhelming, although they can seem to be that way. But they are real challenges. And one of the things that, again, I think my new faculty in biology find as freeing is knowing that they don't have to put their faith on a back burner.
But there's an added challenge for us. I think the challenge is there at the university level as well, a very parallel challenge. But there's an added challenge for us in that what Baylor is asking faculty to do and empowering faculty to do, what Baylor needs faculty to do is not only excel in their narrow, specialized, silo discipline, which your graduate program has fully equipped you to do, or your professional life up to this point, but it's to do something more than that, and that is to add on to that level of professional training a kind of critical perspective as a Christian intellectual and thinker that can help understand your discipline and in light of our shared Christian calling to understand God and all things in relation to God, and to live faithfully in a very complicated and highly challenging world. I think of the IFL's programs as a very exemplary place to look for a chance not only to have the kind of conversations we need to have, but to meet people who can challenge you and help you think through the added dimension that Baylor's calling you to as a Christian thinker.
I would say don't do it alone. Ultimately, you've got to find community here. There's a Hebrew phrase, hazak hazak v'nit hazek. Be strong, together we are stronger. And I think that's true, right? I think we've got to reach out across our silos, not just for sort of intellectual purposes, but for spiritual purposes, for the purposes of cultivating community. So don't go at it alone. That's one thing I would say. Reach out, find like-minded folks, ask folks to have lunch, make efforts to go to lectures not in your discipline. Join organizations. There's a number of different organizations on campus for faculty and staff that you can join. Join those and find community, because I can tell you the reason I have loved Baylor is because I found a great community of folks to do this work with.